All right, let's dive in. We are about to go on the most epic journey imaginable, the entire 4.5 billion year history of our home, planet Earth. We're going to go from a raging ball of fire to the world we know today. So buckle up because we're about to see worlds get born, die, and be reborn all in just the next few minutes.
But first, let me ask you a simple question. Where are you right now? Sitting in an office? Chilling on your couch? I mean, really, take a good look around. Because the very ground right under your feet holds a history so extreme, so violent, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around.
That's right. The exact spot where you are right now was once a sea of molten lava, boiling at over 8,500 degrees Celsius. And then, at another time, it was buried under a sheet of ice so thick it's hard to even picture. Both are true. So, how in the world do you get from that to this?
Well, it all kicked off with fire and just unimaginable violence. Our planet's story starts way before it was even a planet, back when it was just this huge, cold cloud of gas and dust hanging out in space.
So, picture this. A nearby star just explodes, goes supernova, sending this massive shockwave rippling through that cloud, and that was the trigger it needed. Suddenly, gravity just takes over, pulling all that dust and gas into a spinning disk. Right at the center, the pressure gets so intense that nuclear fusion ignites, and bam, our sun is born. All the leftover junk in that disk started smashing into each other, clumping up, and forming the very first planets, including a very young and very different Earth. But here's the thing. Early Earth wasn't alone out there. It was actually sharing its orbit with another baby planet about the size of Mars that we call Theia. And yeah, they were on a collision course. What happened next was, without a doubt, the single biggest event in our planet's early life.
The impact was just world-shattering, literally. Theia basically slammed into and merged with Earth. The collision vaporized the outer layers of both planets, blasting trillions of tons of molten rock out into space. And can you believe it? For a while, Earth actually had rings, just like Saturn. But over thousands of years, gravity got to work, pulling all that rubble together, and that is how we got our moon.
Okay, so after all that cosmic chaos, things finally started to cool down a bit. And now the stage was set for maybe the most profound and mysterious event in all of history, the spark of life.
But hold on, before we get there, the planet had to survive another fiery trial. For millions of years, Earth was just getting hammered by a constant, relentless rain of meteorites left over from the formation of the solar system. These weren't just destructive impacts, though.
No, think of them more like a cosmic delivery service. Because locked inside these rocks were crucial ingredients: salt, minerals, and most important of all, water. Over millions of years, this constant bombardment delivered enough water, drop by drop, to fill entire oceans across the globe. And it's down in the dark depths of these brand new oceans that something absolutely incredible happened. Down near volcanic vents on the seafloor, totally shielded from the harsh radiation on the surface, the complex chemistry of life sparked into existence. The very first living things, these tiny little microscopic organisms, were born.
And for billions of years, that was it. Just these simple little organisms. But they were about to pull off an act of planetary engineering so huge it would trigger Earth's first ever apocalypse.
You see, some of these microbes figured out a revolutionary new trick: photosynthesis, a total game changer. They learned how to use sunlight for energy. This was wildly successful. But here's the kicker. It produced a waste product, a toxic, super reactive gas that was poisonous to pretty much everything else on the planet. And that gas was oxygen.
And this is the crazy part, right? Life itself was about to change the entire planet. This new oxygen just flooded the atmosphere, reacting with all the iron in the water and on the land, and I mean literally rusting the planet. This totally messed with the atmosphere, and global temperatures just plummeted. The whole Earth plunged into a deep freeze, a snowball Earth that lasted for millions of years.
So how did the planet ever thaw out? Well, the answer came from deep inside the planet itself. Earth's molten core was still unbelievably hot. All that heat, trapped under miles of ice, just built up and built up until, boom, massive volcanic eruptions punched right through the ice. These volcanoes pumped the atmosphere full of carbon dioxide, which created a powerful greenhouse effect that finally melted the ice and saved the planet from being a permanent ice cube.
So, life made it. It survived the big freeze, and the world it came back to, it was completely different. Thanks to those little microbes, the atmosphere was now rich with oxygen, and this high-octane gas allowed life to get way more complex, and eventually way, way bigger.
This new oxygen-filled world set off what's called the Cambrian explosion, just a riot of new, complex life. Life eventually moved on to land, with huge fern forests covering the one giant supercontinent, Pangaea. And into this lush green world, well, you know who's coming. The most famous creatures to ever walk the Earth. For 150 million years, and that's so much longer than we've been around, it's not even funny, dinosaurs were the kings, the undisputed rulers of the planet. But their reign came to a crashing, sudden, and catastrophic end. Imagine a rock, bigger than Mount Everest, screaming towards Earth at 80,000 kilometers an hour. When it hit, the energy released was equal to 100 million atomic bombs going off at once. That single impact set off earthquakes that literally shook the planet to its core. It launched tsunamis the size of continents and triggered massive volcanic eruptions. And it threw a thick blanket of superheated dust around the entire world, blocking out the sun, not for days, but for years. The lights went out. The food chain totally collapsed. For the dinosaurs, the reign was over. Just like that. The death of the dinosaurs left this huge power vacuum. And who stepped into that void? The small, furry survivors who managed to ride out the apocalypse by hiding underground. Our story was finally about to start. So imagine this new world. It's dark, it's cold, it's covered in dust. But for our tiny mammal ancestors, this was the opportunity of a lifetime. With all the giants gone, they could finally come out of their burrows and inherit a totally empty planet.
So this is basically the incredible chain reaction that led, well, to us. First, with the dinos gone, mammals just exploded in diversity. Then in Africa, the climate changed, the forest shrank, and that forced some of our ape ancestors out onto the open grasslands. To see over that tall grass and watch out for predators, they started to stand up, to walk on 2 feet. And that, right there, was the key. It freed up their hands, which led to tools, which led to bigger brains, and eventually, to us, to Homo sapiens.
But we really need to put this all into perspective. Think about it like this. If Earth's entire 4.5 billion year history was compressed into a single 24-hour day, our whole species, all of us, would only show up in the last couple of seconds before midnight. And all of human history, everything you've ever read about, that's just a tiny fraction of the final second.
And yet, in that geological blink of an eye, we've gone from timid creatures on the savannah to walking on the moon. We've built a world that lets us change the planet on a scale that, before us, was only possible for things like asteroids or planet-rusting microbes.
And that brings us all the way back to right now. You see, our planet's story is a cycle. It's a story of constant, often violent change and rebirth. Life remakes the world, and the world remakes life. From fire to ice to us. So the big question now is, since we're the new dominant force on Earth, what's the next great transformation going to be? And what part will we play in it?